Resorted, Chapter 7. It was a cold day. Well, all days are cold when you live on an island surrounded by Dementors. Bellatrix, Rodolphus, and Sebastian Lestrange were sitting in their cells together when a guard came in. Don't know why your no-good sister keeps on writing you, but you've got another letter. The man left them to read the letter after he threw it at them. Sissy says that Harry Potter went through his creature inheritance and is mated to my cousin Sirius and our Lord. Bellatrix was shocked. Her lord had never mentioned that he had two mates. Rodolphus was shocked, and then Sebastian just sat there trying to process what his wife had said. There is more. A girl named Ginny Weasley has tried to give Harry a love potion. Due to his inheritance, he could smell something was off with his drink, and Creature took the drink away without the girl's knowledge. Bellatrix was beyond angry with the girl. No one took her master's mates from him before he even met them, and no blood traitor messed with her family. Bellatrix read the rest and was furious with the current headmaster of Hogwarts. Narcissa had included a medical parchment in her letter. It contained all of Harry's injuries. The Lestrange family vowed that from that moment on, they would try to help out Harry Potter. Tom was in the only inhabitable room in the shack the incompetent, pathetic excuse of a wizard known as Wormtail had found for them. His mates were out there, and he needed to be with them. If only he had a faster way of getting his body back. But he didn't. It takes nearly a whole year for the potion that would give him his body back to be ready. The ritual had to be precise, and Tom was nowhere near strong enough to go through the ritual right now. Tom had an idea. Since he knew that Dumbledore would have to hire a new defense against the dark arts professor, he would have to get one of his followers to fill the role. Barty was an obvious choice. He could truly act like someone else for it to be convincing, and then he would have someone to watch over his mates and give them messages for him. Yes, it was perfect. Save Harry from Dumbledore and keep Sirius in the loop. And then when he had his body back, both of his mates would be there. All he had to do now was to have Barty find out who the new defense against the dark arts professor would be, and then Barty would make Polyjuice Potion and be that person for the school year. Fred and George Weasley were sitting in the kitchen talking about pranks as their mother walked in. Boys, no pranks in school. The bitch actually thought they would listen to her. She was adamant that none of her sons were gay. Molly had a whole speech with Charlie, Percy, and them just to make sure they understood that they were straight and that there were some lovely women for them. Fred and George were gay and sort of into each other. They knew that they would share a mate because both were not strictly submissive. Fred was a dom sub and George was a dom, but they needed a submissive. Their creatures demanded it. Fred and George, along with the rest of Arthur's children, were all part Vila and Phoenix. They were all creatures, something Molly did not know. Arthur could sense that Ron and Ginny weren't his actual children. They didn't smell like the others, and his and Molly's relationship hadn't been the same since the twins were born. Fred and George switched topics from pranks to finding their mate. For Molly's sake, they said mates, so she wouldn't explode on them and wake up Walburgius Black's portrait again. The portrait didn't mind having the Weasleys. It was just Molly, Ron, Ginny, and the mudblood she hated in her house. I know, just the girls for you boys. The Patils have twin daughters, and it would be perfect for you both. They are both in Gryffindor. It wouldn't be hard to get a marriage license for you. Molly was beaming. She thought her sons would go along with it, and she would get plenty of grandchildren. Male pregnancies in the Wizarding world wasn't unheard of. It was just rare because they were more fragile than female pregnancies, since the male relied solely on his magic. Unless, of course, they were a creature and a submissive. They were saved from saying anything further when Fleur and Bill came downstairs to talk to the twins about the plans for their school year, like Quidditch, and if they planned on playing. Soon Arthur came down with Percy, who was holding something in his hands tightly. Charlie came down shaking with excitement. He had woken up to see that his boyfriend had stayed on the mirror call with him the whole night. He had woken up to see his boyfriend's smiling face. "I have great news," Charlie announced, and everyone looked at him. Molly rolled her eyes, thinking it had to do with dragons. "I will wait for everyone to be up. It is a surprise that will make everyone happy." Charlie was smiling, and everyone else was happy, because Charlie was hardly ever this happy, unless they were alone. Sirius was sitting in his father's old study. It was hidden from the rest of the library. Not even his mother knew where it was. Orion Black showed it to Sirius because as the firstborn son, he was the rightful heir and head of the family. After his death, Sirius became Lord Black, and the door would only open for him and anyone else he decided to let in. In the room there were some portraits of family members and some wizarding photos. The one that caught his attention was one of him. Sirius was 4 or 5 in the picture. He had been given a toy broom and was pretending he was the greatest beater in all of the world. Sirius was laughing, and Albraxius Malfoy was in the background with his son, Lucius, who was friends with Sirius's cousins. The photo had been hidden in a secret drawer. It had preservation spells on it. Written on the back was, "Proudest moment," in his father's perfect handwriting. Next to that photo had been one of Sirius and Regulus. They were in the gardens of one of the family's many mansions. Sirius had been teaching Regulus how to read French, and this was one of them reading together and smiling. Them being brothers and happy. The year before, Sirius was sorted into Gryffindor, and his family started to hate him. On the back of the photo, his father had written, "My smart boys, may you always be happy." Soon Sirius left the study and went to the kitchen. His mate was there with the others. "I have an announcement," Charlie called over the sound of breakfast. "If you remember, I met Victor Crumb last year and have become friends with him." It was hard not to say mates with him. "He has pulled some strings and is giving the family tickets to the Quidditch World Cup." Charlie was shaking with excitement and was soon hugged by Ron. "Do you think he'll sign my poster?" Ron asked his brother. "He might be busy with other fans, but I can ask him. They might have dragons this year, and the team has asked me to help keep them in check." If there was one thing Charlie loved other than his mate, it was dragons. He studied them for a living. Charlie was a dragon tamer, and sometimes Victor would say that Charlie was part dragon, with how well he did with them. "Surely you can get your friend to sign a poster for your brother," Molly said in a condescending tone. "It's all right, Ron. Your poster will be signed by Crumb, and you can hang it up in your dorm at school," Molly reassured her youngest son. The others decided to eat. Harry only ate certain things that he didn't normally eat and stayed away from what he usually ate. "Harry, aren't you going to eat some eggs?" Molly asked, faking curiosity and a little bit hurt. "I don't feel like having eggs today. I want some fruit today is all." Harry shrugged and leaned closer to Sirius. "Well, mate, do you want to play wizard chess after breakfast?" Ron asked in a tone that sounded friendly, but his face said he would rather be anywhere but with Harry. "Sorry, Ron, but I'm going to the ministry today with your dad and Percy. Remember, I want to see what department fits me best." Ron looked angry. "I thought you were joking about that, mate. We all know you want to be an Auror." Sirius was mad now. "If Harry wants to look at jobs, he can look at jobs. Stop saying he wants to be an Auror when he has told you multiple times he doesn't wish to be an Auror," Sirius growled at the red-haired boy and put his arms around his godson/mate. It was hard for Ron not to flinch at the grim Animagus's words. The man was terrifying even after 12 years in Azkaban. Harry moved closer to Sirius, and sensing his mate's distress, Sirius calmed down and focused on Harry. "Can you come with us, as Padfoot?" Sirius knew that it was the creature in Harry that needed his mate to be close, and looking at Arthur, he silently asked if it was safe. "We might be able to smuggle him past security as your familiar. No one takes a wizard or witch's familiar. It is against wizarding law," Percy said, and then blushed and bowed his head. He answered a question that was asked of his mate, not of him. "That is correct, Percy. I didn't know you studied laws on wizards and their familiars." Arthur sounded impressed, and he was also proud to have such a smart mate. "Well, Harry needs to rest before the outing, and we still have some unpacking to do. Percy will be taking me and Harry to the ministry when he leaves for work," Sirius said, and picked up a very sleepy Harry and carried him to their room. The others didn't know that Sirius and Harry shared a room. They just thought that Harry shared a room with Charlie or Percy. "Why are we in our room?" Harry asked, and Sirius just smiled. "You need sleep, my baby boy, and I want to spend some time with you." Harry snuggled closer to Sirius, which made the Grim very happy. "Sleep, pup. I will still be here when you wake up," Sirius told him as they laid down to take a nap. Ginny was furious. No, she was beyond furious. How dare Harry does not eat the food he normally does? How was she supposed to feed him love potions if she didn't know what food he was going to eat? Wait a second. Harry always ate treacle tart. In fact, he sometimes asked that nasty elf for some during the day. All she had to do is sprinkle the love potion over the treacle tart and give it to Harry. The drink didn't do anything. Maybe it takes a while for it to work if it was put into a hot drink. Anyway, she would make Harry love her, and then he would die, and she would be Lady Potter, and then she would marry another rich pureblood, and no one would ever look down on her again. The perfect plan. Make Harry fall in love with her, marry Harry, and be rich Lady Potter. Kill Harry, marry again to another rich pureblood, and have children with him. Be rich and not have people look down on her ever again. Molly was angry. Her first husband had stayed with Percy all night. Then when she asked him why, all he said was that Percy was afraid to be alone and he didn't want to disturb Molly's sleep. "You need your beauty sleep, Moles, and I didn't think you would appreciate being woken up before you had to," Arthur had told her right before he left for work. The man was getting on her nerves. She married him because he was going places in the ministry, and then after Charlie was born, Arthur decided that he liked working in the Muggle management department. Not even a good-paying job. Albus was helping Molly, and she was flattered that a great wizard like him would even look at a witch like her. It had started out as writing to each other daily, and then meeting in his office after or before order meetings, and then Molly became pregnant with Ron and Ginny. She knew without a doubt that they were Albus's children, and they were her favourites, because she actually loved Dumbledore, and to have his children was a blessing. Hermione was a good girl, and she was good for Ron. They made a perfect couple, and Ginny would marry Harry, and they would be a perfect couple, and she would have many grandbabies to spoil. Now to find out how to separate Harry from his attachment to her son Percy, and to keep the twins away from Harry in school. At least Charlie made Ron happy with his promise to get the poster of Victor Crumb signed. Maybe she could get him to let Ron meet the rest of the team.